All right, let's dive into chain fusion on the internet computer. I'm really curious about how this is going to bridge all these different blockchains and how this could change dApps and like how we use them.
Yeah, definitely. And your sources. They bring up some pretty interesting points like ICP smart contracts, or canisters as they're called, that can actually manage Bitcoin. And then there's this layer zero solution that could change everything in Web3. And even a project that's trying to build like a tokenized Bitcoin mining economy.
Okay, so there's a lot to cover here, but maybe before we jump into all of that,
Yeah.
can we just take a step back and like, what exactly is the internet computer?
So think of it like a decentralized blockchain network with a pretty big goal to be a global world computer that can like power Web3. It's kind of like taking cloud computing and like distributing it across a bunch of different nodes.
So no more big tech controlling our data. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. And chain fusion is a big part of this. It lets the internet computer talk directly to other blockchains like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, over 30 others, so we don't have to use those like clunky bridges anymore.
Yeah, those have always been a pain. So what's so great about this direct connection?
Well, imagine using dApps just as easily as like your favorite websites. No more messing with crypto wallets or like complicated transactions. It just makes everything a lot easier.
That would be definitely great for like regular people.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with more and more people coming into Web3. But that's not even all. Chain Fusion uses all the cool stuff about the internet computer, like how powerful it is compared to other blockchains, and how much data you can store in one smart contract, and even how these smart contracts can basically run on their own. They call it canister autonomy, which basically means dApps can do things on a schedule without anyone having to do anything.
Hold on. So one ICP smart contract can hold like a ton of data and do things by itself. That's kind of wild.
Yeah, it is. It's like having a little computer on the blockchain. And get this, did you know that ICP smart contracts can actually talk to regular websites?
Whoa. So it's like mixing Web 2 and Web 3 together.
Exactly. They call it HTTPS outcalls. And it opens up all these possibilities, like putting blockchain stuff on regular websites or building new apps that use both.
Okay, this is getting really interesting.
Oh, yeah. And we're just getting started. But let's talk about how it all works. One of the main things behind chain fusion is this thing called threshold signing.
Okay. Tell me about that.
Well, it's basically a way to keep things safe. It makes sure that the private keys that you use to do transactions aren't all kept in one place. Instead, they're spread out across different nodes on the network. So a hacker would have to control most of the nodes to steal anything.
So it's like a security system with no weak points.
Exactly. Now, when it comes to talking to other blockchains, ICP does it in two ways: direct integration and decentralized RPC.
Okay, so direct integration sounds pretty straightforward.
Okay.
But what about this decentralized RPC?
So for Bitcoin, ICP nodes can just talk directly to the Bitcoin network. It's almost like running their own Bitcoin node. But for Ethereum and other EVM blockchains, they use a network of these independent remote procedure call providers, or RPC providers for short.
It's like a direct line for Bitcoin, but they have to go through these providers for Ethereum. Does that make it less decentralized?
Well, that's a good question. Ideally, they would have direct integration for everything, but it's not always possible. The goal is to do that eventually. But for now, they use a bunch of different providers to be safe.
So it sounds like they're trying to be as secure as possible.
Exactly. And the great thing is they can connect to a lot of different blockchains without sacrificing security and decentralization.
Okay, so we talked about what chain fusion is and how it works. But what I'm really excited about is, what can developers actually build with this?
Now you're talking. There are so many possibilities, but let's start with some real examples.
I'm all ears.
One cool thing is trustless cron jobs. A lot of dApps need to do things at certain times, like liquidating loans, or giving out rewards, or updating data. Usually they use centralized services for this, which isn't very secure. But with chain fusion, ICP smart contracts can do this stuff on their own, right on the blockchain.
So you can do all this important stuff automatically.
Exactly. And securely, without relying on anyone else.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's just one example. You can also build multi-chain decentralized exchanges, or DXs.
Now you're speaking my language.
Imagine a DX where you can trade anything. Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, all in one place. No more switching between platforms or wallets.
That would be amazing.
Right. But how do you handle all the liquidity from different blockchains?
Yeah, that's got to be tricky.
That's where chainfusion's direct integration comes in. It lets developers build DXs that can use liquidity from all these different chains.
So it's like one big pool of liquidity.
Exactly. And there are already projects like Helix Markets doing this.
Very cool.
But wait, there's more.
Okay.
You can also create truly decentralized stablecoins. Imagine a stablecoin pegged to the dollar. But instead of being backed by some company, it's backed by Bitcoin, held securely on the internet computer.
So it's like a stable coin, but way more secure?
Exactly. It wouldn't have all the risks of those centralized stablecoins.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
I know, right? And chainfusion makes this all possible because you can manage and move Bitcoin right on the internet computer.
This is starting to feel like a whole new era for blockchain.
It is. And there's one more thing I want to talk about. Remember that tokenized Bitcoin mining economy we mentioned?
Yeah, that one really caught my attention.
So there's this project called Loca Mining. They're using chainfusion to create a system where you can own a piece of a Bitcoin mining operation. But you don't need to buy any equipment, you just buy a token. And that token represents your share.
So it's like owning a little piece of a Bitcoin mine, but you don't have to do any of the work.
Exactly. And those tokens get their value from the Bitcoin that's mined.
That's incredible.
And Loca Mining is doing it all on chain. So anyone can participate.
So it's like democratizing Bitcoin mining.
Exactly. And these are just a few examples. I'm sure we'll see even more creative dApps being built.
Seems like we're just scratching the surface here.
We are. But one thing's for sure. Chainfusion isn't just some new technology. It's a totally new way of thinking about blockchain.
It feels like we're seeing the beginning of a truly connected blockchain world.
We are. And that's what makes it so exciting. It's not just a small step forward. It's a huge leap. That could change everything about Web3.
All right, well, we're going to dive even deeper into chainfusion in part 2 of this deep dive. We'll talk about the technical stuff behind it and look at more examples of how developers are using it. And we'll also talk about security and what this all means for the blockchain world.
Sounds good.
So stay tuned. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. I'm really curious about those chain key tokens you mentioned. They sound pretty futuristic. Can you break those down for me, like in a way that even I can understand?
Of course. So chain key tokens are basically like digital versions of assets from other blockchains, but they live on the internet computer. You've got FINEC BTC for Bitcoin, FINETH for Ethereum, even FERC20 for all those Ethereum tokens. It's like having those assets right here on ICP ready to use.
Okay, I think I get that. But how do they make sure those digital twins are actually backed by the real thing? Like, how do you stop people from just making them up?
Good question. It all comes down to how these chain key tokens are managed. They're not just floating around out there. They're held in these special smart contracts called canisters, which follow these strict rules.
So it's like the canisters are these super secure vaults, making sure every CK BTC or CKF is really backed by Bitcoin or Ethereum.
You got it. They have this whole system to keep everything pegged 1.1, like a reserve. So for every CK-BTC, there's an equal amount of Bitcoin locked up in a canister.
Okay, so it's not just some made-up thing. There's real value behind it.
Exactly. That's how they keep everything stable and trustworthy. But let's move on to another important piece, the EVM RPC canister.
Ah, yes, that one kind of went over my head earlier. Can you explain that one in simple terms?
Sure. So remember how we talked about ICP using those RPC providers to talk to Ethereum? Well, the EVM RPC canister is like this special on-chain interface. It acts as a bridge between ICP and the Ethereum virtual machine, or EVM.
So instead of relying on those outside providers, this canister acts like the middleman, letting ICP smart contracts talk directly to the Ethereum blockchain.
That's it. It's like having a direct line to Ethereum right here on the internet computer.
Pretty cool. It seems like Dfinity has thought of everything to make chain fusion as smooth and powerful as possible. But it's more than just chain key tokens and EVM RPC canisters, right? What other pieces make this whole thing work?
You're right. It's a pretty complex system with a lot of moving parts. We already talked about threshold signatures. They keep transactions secure by spreading out those private keys. Then there are those HTTPS outcalls. They let ICP smart contracts talk directly to websites, which opens up a ton of possibilities for mixing Web 2 and Web 3. And then there's the Bitcoin API, which lets ICP talk directly to the Bitcoin network.
It's like all these different technologies working together. But I'm still a little fuzzy on how it all comes together in practice. Can you give me some examples of how developers are actually using all this?
Definitely. Let's go back to those trustless cron jobs. Imagine you're building a lending platform on the internet computer. One really important thing you need to do is liquidate loans if they fall below a certain value. Usually this is done using a central server, which can be a security risk.
Yeah, that's always seems like a weak point in DeFi.
Exactly. But with chain fusion, you can build a system that's completely trustless. The lending platform's smart contract can automatically keep track of the loan values and trigger liquidations if necessary, all on its own.
So the smart contract is like its own automated risk manager.
Exactly. And it's all thanks to the combination of canister autonomy, those scheduled tasks we talked about, and the secure management of assets using chain key tokens.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all this technical stuff can actually be used. What about those multi-chain DECs? How do they use all this?
Okay, let's say you're building a DX that lets people trade Bitcoin and Ethereum. With chain fusion, you can have users deposit their Bitcoin into a canister and get CK's BTC in return. It represents their Bitcoin holdings on ICP. Same thing for Ethereum. Deposit Ethereum, get ETH. Then people can trade these chain key tokens on the DX using the speed and efficiency of the internet computer.
So the actual Bitcoin and Ethereum are kept safe,
Well,
while the trading happens using these digital versions on ICP.
exactly. But how does the DX figure out the prices and handle liquidity across all these different blockchains?
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's where the EVM RPC canister comes in. The DEX can use it to access price feeds and liquidity pools from Ethereum.
Hmm.
So the trading on the ICP DEX matches what's happening in the rest of the market. It's seamless cross-chain trading without needing any of those traditional bridges.
So it's like creating one unified trading experience across multiple blockchains.
Exactly. And then there are the decentralized stablecoins. Remember that stablecoin backed by Bitcoin? Well, Chain Fusion lets you build a canister that holds those Bitcoin reserves and issues stablecoins pegged to the dollar.
So it's a stablecoin, but way more secure and transparent.
Exactly. It could be a game changer for DeFi.
Okay, this is all really impressive.
And then there's the tokenized Bitcoin mining economy. Remember Loca mining?
Oh, yeah. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that one.
So they're using canister smart contracts to create tokens that represent shares in their mining operation. Let's call them LKA tokens. You can buy and sell them on a DAX built on the internet computer.
So instead of buying all that expensive mining equipment, I could just buy some LKA tokens and get a share of the profits.
Exactly. And the cool thing is, the LOK token is also a utility token within their ecosystem. So you can use it to vote on stuff related to the mining operation and even earn rewards.
So it's not just about passive ownership. You're actually participating in the mining operation.
Exactly. It's a whole new way of thinking about Bitcoin mining. And it's all thanks to chain fusion and the internet computer. And the best part is, everything is transparent. You can see all the mining revenue, the token distribution, the governance. It's all on the blockchain.
This is starting to feel like the future of investing.
It is, and it goes way beyond just Bitcoin mining. Imagine tokenized real estate, renewable energy, even art, all managed and traded on a decentralized platform powered by chain fusion.
Whoa, this is blowing my mind.
I know, right? It's like chain fusion is bridging the gap between the digital world of blockchain and the real world.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. But with all this potential, there are some big questions. How secure is all this? What are the risks?
Those are great questions. So we'll definitely dive into those in the last part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've talked about all the amazing things chain fusion can do, but let's be real. With all this blockchain bridging and moving assets around, how can we be sure it's actually secure?
You're right. Security is super important. And the good news is, chain fusion was designed with security in mind from the start, like we talked about before. It uses threshold signing to spread those private keys across multiple nodes, so it's really hard for hackers to get their hands on them.
Yeah, that does sound pretty secure. But some people say that using those external RPC providers for Ethereum makes it less decentralized and potentially less secure.
That's a fair point. Using those providers does mean you have to trust them to some degree. But remember, ICP uses several different providers, so if one of them has a problem, the whole system doesn't go down.
It's like not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
Okay, but what about the smart contracts themselves? How do we know the code is actually secure? Like, what if there's some loophole that hackers could exploit?
Well, that's where auditing and testing come in. In the ICP world, they take security really seriously. All the smart contracts are audited by these professional security companies to find and fix any problems before they go live.
So they're like code detectives looking for any weaknesses.
Exactly. And they use this special programming language called Motoko to build the smart contracts. It's designed to be extra secure. It has all these built-in features that prevent common coding mistakes.
So it's like they've got security covered from every angle.
Yeah, they've got multiple layers of protection. And it's not just a one-time thing. They're constantly working to improve security. As new threats come up, they adapt and make the system even stronger.
It's good to hear. But security isn't the only thing to think about.
Yeah.
What about governance? Who's in control of chain fusion? How do we know it'll stay decentralized and resistant to censorship?
Those are really important questions, and they get to the heart of why blockchain is so revolutionary. The internet computer has this decentralized governance system called the network nervous system, or NNS for short.
Yeah, the network nervous system.
Yeah, it's basically a blockchain that runs the whole internet computer. It's controlled by a community of token holders. They vote on everything, like updates to the system, how the network works, even which nodes get to participate.
So it's like a blockchain democracy.
Exactly. And this system applies to chain fusion too. Any big changes have to be approved by the NNS, so the community has a say in how it evolves.
That's a really good way to keep things decentralized.
It is, and that's what makes chain fusion so unique. It's not just about connecting blockchains, it's about doing it in a way that's secure, transparent, and decentralized.
I'm starting to see why this is such a big deal.
It is a big deal. It's different from all those other solutions that use centralized bridges. It's about giving power back to the users and developers to build a better Web3.
We've covered a lot of ground today, from the technical details to the potential use cases. And we talked about the big questions around security and governance. But as we wrap things up, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the bigger picture. What does chain fusion mean for the future of blockchain?
I think it's a major turning point. For a long time, all these different blockchains have been like separate islands, unable to really talk to each other. But chain fusion changes all that. It creates true interoperability. And that opens up a whole new world of possibilities.
It's like we're moving from isolated islands to a connected continent.
Exactly. And I think eventually, we won't even think about separate blockchains anymore. Applications will be able to use the best features of different chains. Imagine an app that combines the security of Bitcoin with the smart contracts of Ethereum and the speed of the internet computer. That's the kind of future chain fusion is building.
That sounds amazing. What about everyone else in the blockchain world? How do you think they'll react to all of this?
I think it'll be a mixed bag. Some will probably try to ignore it, hoping it'll just go away. Others will try to catch up and build their own interoperability solutions. But I think the smart ones will embrace it. They'll realize that this is the future and work together to build a more open and connected blockchain ecosystem.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. But for now, it seems like chain fusion is leading the way.
It is. And it's all thanks to the amazing work of the Dfinity team and the incredible community of developers building on the internet computer.
Well, I have to say, I'm feeling really excited about the future of blockchain after this deep dive.
Me too. It's an amazing space to be a part of, with so much innovation happening.
So for anyone listening who wants to learn more, or even get involved, where should they go?
The internet computer community is super welcoming. There are tons of resources online, documentation, tutorials, forums. The Dfinity website is a great place to start.
Awesome. And I encourage everyone to check out the projects we talked about today, like Helix Markets and Loca Mining. They're great examples of what you can build with chain fusion.
Definitely check those out. The future of blockchain is being built right now, and chain fusion is a big part of it. So get involved, stay curious, and let's see what we can create together.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of chain fusion. Until next time, keep exploring the exciting world of Web3.